Hello and welcome to the Inverted Castle, a podcast about Metroidvania games. I'm a man who's been severed from the time stream, Thomas Blight, and with me is a man who's his own grandfather, Eric Fox.
I did do the nasty and the pasty.
And we're talking about Timespinner, a game about time travel. Time travel.
They put their own unique spin on it, but sure. It was developed by Lunar Ray Games and published by Chucklefish back in 2018.
Yep. And it's got a sequel coming at some point.
It got announced, at the very least. There's a trailer. But, the one we played is very much Castlevania inspired, specifically Order of Ecclesia.
Yeah.
But I think it does at least enough unique things. Certainly its art style is more like, it seems like a Genesis, Super Nintendo era platformer with probably a bit more fidelity to its animations than those systems could ever hope to achieve.
That's fair. Yeah, Ecclesia is not one of the Castlevanias that I've played, so could you describe what makes it similar to Ecclesia?
Okay, well, we're getting into how the gameplay works here, but instead of equipping weapons, Order of Ecclesia, you'd get glyphs from enemies you'd equip to left and right, as well as a special move. So two buttons, left and right attacks that could be different, but mostly you keep them to the same thing. This one is similar, where you'd get orbs. Each orb has an associated magic spell. All of these level up independently, but again, theoretically these can be different, but in practice you really just have the same sets that you swap between.
Yeah, I don't actually know if there's really very much incentive to equip two different ones, especially since you can hot swap easily. So oh no, I have hit a resistance, well, swap to the other one, rather than have one of each element that one's gonna get resisted and the other one's not.
Yeah, there are 8 different elements, but in practice you really only need the 3 you got to basically handle any problem you'll face.
Yep. Good old rock. Nothing beats rock.
Unless you really need plasma, which I think is a little bit better than rock.
Oh, I barely use the plasma orbs.
I found a bit of use for them, but generally, particularly the iron special, the big hammer.
Oh yes, the big hammer is great.
Nothing could compare with the amount of damage that one put out. But before we get into all that, we should probably actually contextualize some of what's going on, in particular why it's called Timespinner.
Yeah, so the plot of Timespinner is about a tribe of nomads who have this powerful magic artifact called the Timespinner. I don't think it's really ever established how they have it or where it came from. It's just our culture developed this at some point.
Its provenance is just it may as well as have also come from the future.
Yeah, and they primarily use this to evade existential threats by sending a time messenger back in time, which takes them out of the time stream to show up earlier and warn them to leave before they get killed.
Yeah, it's a very fun premise on its face, even though it probably doesn't come up too much in the main plot.
Yeah.
You play as the last time messenger, functionally speaking.
Yeah. This has been going pretty well for them, to the point where they have actually survived as a nomadic, somewhat non-modernized culture way past our modernity. I mean, this is not Earth, but in parallel, right?
Yeah.
To the spacefaring age, right? Where they are still living in temporary wood structures, and meanwhile, their planet is invaded by Space Marines. I don't know.
The Empire.
Yeah.
The Lashium Empire.
Which I keep thinking of in my head as L'chaim.
Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to go that far. Yeah, there are a lot of proper nouns that aren't particularly easy to pronounce. There's another planet called Villete or Vilete, depending on, I don't know, your own whims.
No, I think I just thought of it as Villette.
Sure.
Like Gillette.
The best a man can get.
Yeah. But I may just randomly drop letters from things. I'm great at pronouncing, guys. Epithemius? Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, so as part of the background, this used to be like a once a generation thing, or even less frequently. They are having to send time messengers super frequently now that the Lechime are here.
Yeah, the threats come fast and hard more frequently, and so they're actually like running out of people in their tribe because they keep getting like they get removed from the time stream, they get reintroduced, but it's getting pretty bleak.
Yeah, and there's definitely some element of tragedy to being reintroduced, right? There's a whole bunch of things of like, oh yeah, someone shows up and then their partner is not their partner and like doesn't know them and is deep into other relationships, right?
Yeah, exactly. Although this tribe's culture also prioritizes having multiple partners to continue to like spawn progeny, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, everyone in this is just super casually like poly and pansexual, with the exception of the main villain, I guess.
Kind of, yeah. Which, fair enough. It's unfortunate. Like there's a later cutscene of different NPCs basically just sitting down and talking about which letter they are. But our episode's going to be coming out a week after Pride Month, so I guess we did not time this one correctly.
Poor timing. Oh well.
Of all the ones to time poorly, it's Timespinner. I'm sorry.
Ho 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 ho. Well, we'll have to go back in time and schedule the episode earlier.
But the future refused to change.
Yeah. How this manifests into gameplay is that you are going between two different time periods, one 1,000 years before the other. So that 1,000 years, I mean, that's a pretty big difference, is like near future spacefaring versus medieval castles and magic.
Yeah, the magic kind of makes things a bit like the level of technology doesn't matter so much because they're just kind of doing things with magic. But like, castles and caves, caverns, aqueducts and whatnot.
With the idea that, hey, I'm supposed to be fixing things so that my tribe can live in peace. By going a little extreme rather than just making a small change, hey, I'm going to try to alter it so that the Emperor of Lechime never decides to try to capture the Timespinner at all.
Or even further, you could change things so that 1,000 years ago, there was never an empire to begin with, or like the what would have caused it to be that way. Or you can even assume the throne yourself. There are multiple endings here.
Yeah. So aside from the two parallel times, the main time element is the ability to freeze time and then like move out of the way of attacks or use enemies as platforms.
Yeah.
It's very Prince of Persia, Sands of Time-y. It's also using the sand metaphor because, I don't know, everyone loves hourglasses.
It's just such a clean metaphor that's already kind of been established in this space. While time is frozen, you can't attack anything. It's usually just to reposition or get some early items. I think occasionally you need to like freeze an enemy to make a platform to get to a place you couldn't get otherwise. That's kind of the only time ability you get in main gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually charge your spell while you're in it and then unfreeze and unleash.
Okay.
I very rarely bothered to do that.
Yeah, it's like it's not worth spending the mental energy when you just need to hit them with the big hammer enough times and just play the fight legit.
Yeah, I mean, this is my second time through, and I started on Nightmare, which is their hard mode.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. Maybe it would have been better if I had stuck with it and gotten to a boss. But it was just like, the difference between normal and Nightmare was, normal you can take a bunch of hits at the very beginning of the game. Nightmare you could take 2.
Right.
I was like, I don't know that I want to be this careful in order to play this game.
Yeah, it sounds like the upshot is only that it makes things take longer. And you just have to be more careful and you just have fewer, like, mistakes that you can make.
Yeah, but in the boss battles, maybe I would have appreciated the higher pressure of Nightmare mode.
I don't know, like I think this could be done like just having bigger numbers isn't particularly interesting. If they had instead perhaps like shifted things towards prioritizing hitting weaknesses so that you do less damage normally, but more damage bonus, and just be like, or if they added like new boss patterns or something like that, that would make things at the very least more enticing.
Yeah.
But very few games go that far for their higher difficulties.
That's fair. So, like, the time only really ever gets used for, hey, let's stop something that's falling and use it as a platform. I don't know, like, I kept expecting it the first time through to, like, evolve, or strangely, they never really do, like, timing puzzles, right? Like, where you need to get somewhere quickly kind of thing.
Yeah, or, like, something's, like, falling, or, like, the gate's falling and you stop time to get under it beforehand or anything like that. Hell, they don't even really do anything with the two time periods where changing the past changes the future outside of vines and story progression of it, that being arbitrary. But
I mean, yeah, it's pretty arbitrary. There is a point where you do something in the past and it makes it so that there's no oxygen in the future outside.
I missed that.
Oh, yeah. So once you destroy the maw, if you go to the future and try to walk outside, you'll get an oxygen meter. And then later, when you go to the military area, you get a rebreather so that you can traverse that area again.
Yeah, I got that rebreather before I hit an oxygen area, just I guess from how I was traversing the zones.
Yeah, that's the thing, and we should talk about the sequencing, because I do think that it's not quite right somehow.
Like they made a mistake?
There is no point where you have to go into the deoxygenated area, right? Like, there is a potential thing that they could have done, right? Where it's like, okay, well, now I've screwed up the future, but I have to go through the deoxygenated area, and I have to, like, go from oxygen bubble to oxygen bubble or something.
Sure.
In order to get something to then go and fix it, right? That is something they could have done. They didn't do that.
Yeah, I was very confused when I picked up the thing that allows me to breathe in low oxygen areas. And like, I had already gotten the thing that allows me to breathe underwater. That's a separate thing. So I was just like, okay, maybe this, like, I guess unlocked something. And then it just, like, it was never clear that it ever came up. So I had no idea that the surface was uninhabitable.
It unlocks going there to get one of the MacGuffins you need for the true ending.
Okay. Yeah, its importance was lost on me, unfortunately.
That's fair. Maybe a dialogue would have been useful if you go there and you have the rebreather.
Yeah, or just something that would necessitate me going through that area without the rebreather first in order to get to it. Just give me some context.
Yeah, so like the other sequencing awkwardness that I find, I mean, one of the things is that it's very past focused for a very long time. It's like, the beginning of the game is the future, and then you go to the past, and then you spend basically uninterrupted in the past, and then you go back to the future and finish out the future.
Yeah, you can swap back and forth if you want, but like in the future, there is like 3 barriers blocking your path, and they're all tied to different elements of this empire's past that, like, when you do things in the past, it'll unlock that. And that's kind of the story stuff I was referring to earlier, where it's like, yeah, you're doing some time shenanigans, but it's very arbitrarily, like, you're beating bosses elsewhere in the game, and then that unlocks the door.
Yeah, for something that is about time, the cause and effect is a little weak.
Yeah, the only other thing that I noticed was if you burn vines in the past, the same vines are gone in the future where they were impassable, and you can get bonus goodies.
Yeah, before you burned them, they became, I assume they became petrified.
Yeah.
An impassable rock that can't be broken.
Exactly. But outside of that, I think that's the only time shenanigans that's not like an NPC quest where you steal from the future to give them future technology to this like ragtag crew of rebels in the past you associate with.
Yeah, and like other than the military hangar, a lot of the gates in the future are card keys. And it's like, okay, like I kind of get why they would be card keys in the future, right? Like the idea of hey, authentication and authorization is different in the future. I don't know. But it's just like, it's not that interesting to have all of the gates in the future be solved by things in the future.
Right.
You needed more esoteric things like, oh, the plasma orb is essentially a card key. They do that in the past.
Yep. But it is also a weapon.
Yeah, they could have done that kind of thing across the 2 time zones or time periods.
Yeah, all your traversal abilities unlock things in the past.
Yeah.
Outside of the rebreather, I guess. But again, that one's like, it's not optional, but it doesn't really serve its purpose as a gatekeeping kind of thing.
It's also, you find it in the future and it's for the future.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I wanted the time periods to be more interconnected than they were.
Yeah. It is neat to have like the two maps kind of overlaid on each other and kind of see like, okay, this architecture is like very similar, or this like land thing. And then seeing how it's different. Certain enemies become more like techno flavored / completely different, but the actual like cause and effect, like this is a time game and there wasn't a lot of that outside of, I guess, story scenes.
So, I don't know. Even within the past, I felt like the sequencing was a little weird, where it's like the, what is it? You fight a succubus and an incubus.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of say like, meet you at the castle, we'll open the door. And all of the side quests are telling you to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then later, you get side quests for the castle. I was like, but I already did the castle stuff. Why are you giving me the side quests for the castle now? Like, it felt like I was doing the things in the wrong order, but that's the order that they become available to you. So, I don't know. It's just...
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was just not completing the side quests fast enough. There are only 5 NPCs, really, that have quests, and they all kind of amount to go to a place and kill enough things or retrieve things from your slain enemies.
Yeah, and they're all also in the past.
And they're also all in the past, except for like some of the later ones where they're one of them is explicitly asking you for evidence of war crimes, and you need to go to the future to get the history that they have that documents their war crimes.
It's like all the quest givers are in the past, so that's another thing that makes the future a little barren.
Yeah, especially since you are from the future. The future, in heavy quotes, is technically your present. Your character, Lunaeus, I don't think we ever said her name.
Oh, yeah.
The last time messenger. Yeah, she, when the Lashium Empire attacked, her clan got destroyed, her mom got killed in front of her, she got sent through the Timespinner as it broke, and all the game is just trying to pick up the pieces on things that went wrong and learning about, culture and all that stuff. Most of the game that you learn about is really from 1,000 years in the past, which makes it feel like the present, and the other thing, a future that probably won't even happen by the time you're done, which, depending on what you do, is very much the case.
Which, maybe that's an in-game justification for why she's not, forging relationships in the future.
Sure.
She's just I hate this place. This is the worst.
Exactly. And also, by using the Timespinner, that also already removed her from the timeline, so it was already kaput.
Yeah, I'd suppose.
The exact mechanics of that I don't think is explicitly explained, or I just missed it, but yeah.
It's kind of just this is how the Timespinner works as per the lore entries.
Yeah, there were 4 different types of lore entries that you can pick up. One of which is Memories of Your Own Mom, which is all about your tribe and her relationship with one of the big bads, the Emperor. It turns out to be your dad. Oops, whoops.
Yep.
There's a bunch of history about the 2 planets, Lashium and Vilete, or Vilete, or Vilette. Let's go with Vilete.
It's the one that rolls off my tongue smoothest.
Yeah, Vilete, the Veletians. They, in 1,000 years ago, they were the empire, essentially, and they treated Lashium as Space Australia. Sent all their criminals there. It's a place where there's no magic, and so a lot of people get this sickness called the bleakness because there's no magic, something like that.
Yeah, they have a specific plasma sphere on Vilete. And I guess another thing is they're just oh yeah, we found a portal in some ruins. It's who made the portal? the demons? Because there's also just demons around.
We're not just being glib. They're succubi, or I guess one succubus and one incubus. They're related. But yeah, there's the third lore entries about like a bunch of letters from the current leader of Latium, who used to be part of the nobility on Valette, and her correspondences and her love affair with the former empress of Latium. They tried to sue for peace. Turns out Valette's old emperor, even more of a piece of shit than 1,000 Years Emperor of Latium. No emperor is a good emperor. Burn it all down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were also just even worse, right? They were like full-on mage supremacist.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, you are not a magic user or low talent magic user, basically worthless.
You should not even gaze upon our majesty.
Yeah.
Also, you're not allowed to be queer. Get out of here.
I don't know. That one was just kind of funny, where it's just like, everyone here is so very queer. How is it that you all came from the evil no queers allowed empire?
Yeah. What are the odds that we're all like LGBT or QIA? Actually, I don't think any of them are ace or aro, so...
Yeah, no.
I can always headcanon that anytime it's not explicit. It's the easiest thing in the world.
I think the aro part is easier than the ace in this game.
Oh, for sure.
Because in this game, everyone's just speaking about how horny they are.
It was weird, because like for most of the game, it's not like at all. And then like you have that one cutscene about hearing this one guy who's just like, yeah, no, I'm a total slut, man. I'm just looking for a good time.
Yeah, I'm not judging.
Oh, certainly not. It's always heartening to see. I feel like it's like a little like on the nose and barreling the camera, but I can't help but do a little fist pump every time I see it in these games. Hell yeah. I'm easy.
Yeah, I guess otherwise, talking about traversal and mechanics, there's not a whole lot in the way of traversal gates.
Yeah.
There's being able to stop time in the first place. There's having the fire orb, which lets you burn the vines. There's a double jump.
There is water breathing / sinking to do a little bit of underwater exploration.
Yeah. There's the oxygen breathing, which apparently Eric didn't even notice.
I mean, I noticed I got it. I just didn't see what it blocked.
Hey, Eric, are you thinking about the fact that you're breathing oxygen right now?
Yeah, I also know where my tongue is. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a dash that you get at some point.
Yeah, like not like an air dash or like combat dash. It is just run fast, like across the land.
Yeah, I mean it lets you jump over long pits, right? And that's how you progress.
Yeah, it's limitedly useful, but it is necessary. Unlike I think the last one you get, which is the super jump.
Oh yeah.
As per Castlevania, like just constantly gaining upward momentum.
Yes.
Which I don't think actually technically blocks anything because of the light orbs special ability.
Oh yeah, the light wall, which you can just stand on the light wall and cast the light wall again. So as long as you've got mana, you can get up places.
Yep, as long as you buy enough mana regenerating potions. The sky is the limit.
And like I mentioned before, the plasma orb is a gate at one point.
It unlocks precisely one door.
Yeah, that's the most arbitrary one.
Yeah, one optional door that has one bit of lore. If you're going for 100% map completion, because that was the last thing I got. I just did not know what opened that door until I just started trying things.
This time around, I was still missing a secret room somewhere.
Oh no.
I didn't bother doing 100% completion. I did, however, discover that I hadn't gotten all of the orbs the first time I played.
No, because when you're pursuing True End, which I believe you need to do all the NPC side quests for,
you just need to get all of the Timespinner pieces.
Oh, right, yeah, all the calibration things.
Yeah, the calibration gears. So I don't think you actually need to do all the side quests for that. That's just an added bonus.
No, fair enough. You should still do all the side quests, but yeah, if you're going for True End, you get the choice of killing an emperor, either your dad or 1,000 years ago, Valetian dad. They're mostly the same fight. They use orbs like you do, but the different ones that kind of behave similarly, like The blade orb with your dad is just swords that come out in an arc. And the other guy uses the hammers, which also come out in an arc.
Yeah.
But yeah, after doing that, time kind of explodes.
Yep.
You've changed too much at this point, as it turns out.
You broke it, hero.
And the time god throws a hissy fit, and you're trapped in Time Dream, where you can pursue him or do an optional bonus gauntlet that is randomly generated to a certain extent.
Yeah, although I don't know how much variety there actually is. It's mostly just rooms full of enemies.
Yeah, but you do have to do it at least twice to get everything, I believe.
Oh, you have to do it way more than twice if you want to get everything.
Oh, no.
Unless you got really lucky with the familiars.
Right, because your reward is a familiar and a weapon, and or a weapon, I should say.
Yeah. So there's 2 orbs that can be gotten, one from each of the bosses. There are 2 familiars. There's some high-level equipment as well that can appear instead of the familiars.
Right. I did it once and just kind of beat the game, but yeah, it's weird because it also doesn't indicate that there's more to get after you do it once.
Yeah, except you haven't gotten the achievos.
Yeah, but also maybe I just missed a super bonus hidden room, or maybe I need to fight the other semi-final boss that I didn't choose to get here.
That's fair.
Before I looked it up, I had no idea.
Hmm.
But then, yeah, you killed Time God. It's a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
All things considered. You really need to make use of your time thing. He'll start doing time things, which is also just freezing. It's good.
Yeah. At some point, he can also act during your time freeze.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Time God.
Yeah, your panic button is no longer an option, but it wasn't so necessary to your strategy beforehand anyway.
Yeah. It makes me think of what is it in Okami, the nine-tailed fox who can draw while you're drawing.
Oh right, man, I've not thought about Okami since it was new. That's a Zelda game, not a Metroidvania. I am drawing a line.
Okay.
Also, that game's far too long for anyone. Life's too short to play or watch a full Okami playthrough. But no, and then after that, Lunaeus, having defeated God, becomes the new time god, or the Eternal Mother. And basically, it's one of those bittersweet things where she loses her humanity in the process, but makes the best possible future, depending on which emperor you killed. There are at least 4 different endings for this.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, yeah, she is no longer among the people. Well, I guess we'll see in the sequel if that matters.
Yeah. Haven't actually paid that much attention to if they've said anything in the trailer that suggests oh, this is didn't even pay attention to if it's the same main character.
It is not. I just watched it and none of the proper names other than a reference to the Eternal Mother showed up. So we'll see.
I don't know. Maybe you'll have to fight Lunaeus as the final boss.
Oh man.
It's just a sequence of people replacing the time god to do whatever shenanigans they wanted with the time stream.
I can't believe we've formed a stable time loop of video games. But no, ultimately, I think it was a fun Castlevania-esque romp that I don't think really followed through on its time-based premise.
Yeah, I had fun with it. I feel like playing it back, I was like, hey, this is a lot more fun than I remembered.
Sure.
I don't know, it kind of faded with time. I kind of put it and Chasm in the same place and was like, this is better than Chasm, I think.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I definitely would put this above Chasm for having at the very least, having a personality its own. For as similar as it is to Castlevania, at the very least, having one of the main face buttons be freeze time on its face is already kind of doing it for me.
But speaking of Chasm, yeah, this game came out in 2018, the same year as Chasm and Iconoclasts and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
So, I don't know. This was also a game that I saw at PAX and then very eventually released.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to come out in 2015, and then it was a Kickstarter as well. I'm not sure. Did you fund this one as well? Did you forget?
Oh, no. This was way before I was into Kickstarter.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a good time with it. It wasn't doing anything super complex, but it felt good to play.
Yeah, like the core mechanics of like when we refer to one of these types of games, this one is very frictionless in how do you just kind of get into it and understand what you need to do to succeed. I am kind of curious how one would do like a time loop Metroidvania that isn't just a roguelike. Because
Yeah.
speaking personally, I've played a lot of like time loop RPGs or like narrative based things recently, like in Stars in Time and I Was a Teenage Exocolonist. Both kind of they're not roguelikes, but they do want you to play the same thing over and over and kind of instrumentalize having knowledge in future playthroughs. And I'm just wondering how that could be applied to a Metroidvania without it just feeling rote and like playing the same thing over and over again. And I don't know. I kind of guess I get the same thing from randomizers.
Yeah, I don't know. The time loop specifically, I think, is challenging. I think just the effect of like coming to the past with knowledge or something from the future would make a lot of sense. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if the thing that I want is I actually want the time periods to be a little closer together. Right. And it could be like same building or area or whatever, pre-apocalypse, post-apocalypse. And then it's like post-apocalypse, you find like a key card. I don't know, you can, if you want to do the key cards thing.
Yeah, sure.
And then you go back to pre-apocalypse and that allows you to get access to something which gives you a tool which you can then use post-apocalypse to get further, kind of thing, right? Like, that is a loop that I could see working.
Yeah, and it's really just kind of contextualizing what we already do with just different areas as being, like, in universe, the same area in different times.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling to think of, like, would it be good for the doing things in the past that change the future that might, like, lock off content if you don't do the future stuff before you change it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of annoying when that happens, right? Like, that's kind of like the like Chrono Trigger, hey, you have to open this chest in the future before you open it in the past, and then you have the time paradox of having the items from both.
It seems like it very easily just kind of stumbles into being more annoying than novel.
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds a little bit like Dead Rising, like assemble the perfect run kind of thing, or I guess Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of time loop games that I really enjoy, Majora's Mask, but like, yeah, if it's based around a small enough play area that kind of opens up through loops, but having a strong enough core that the repetition doesn't really like outstay its welcome, it's a tough problem to solve. And certainly all of the games that I've played with this mechanic don't really get away from some of this really becomes rote after a time. Some are better than others at weaponizing that against the player, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. So it's my turn to be like, hey, Eric, where are you putting this on the stack rank?
Oh my God. Just out of nowhere, blindsiding me. Well, thankfully, we were already talking about Chasm, which is currently number 24. Already, spoiler alert, it's better than Chasm. Above it is Blasphemous, which I kind of enjoy this one. Just its particular story is a bit more fun to be around. Again, I think Blasphemous is a little too frictive. And above that is Gato Roboto, which, as clean as it is also not as impactful. Absence of Light, similarly, if it wasn't a bullet hell, you really need to be in the mood for a bullet hell. And I think I'm going to put this right under Pseudo Regalia, where Pseudo Regalia is novel enough, whereas I don't think I can put this one, which doesn't quite reach its potential and is still just it's a good Castlevania-like.
Yeah.
Under Pseudo Regalia, number 21, Timespinner.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking somewhere similar, right? Like, it's just, this is smooth to play, but not particularly doing that much interesting. So I think the interesting question for me, I'm looking at Rebel Transmute.
Ooh.
And being like, Rebel Transmute frustrated me more, but it also did more interesting things.
I think, yeah, okay.
Right?
I think I know where you're going, which is like Rebel Transmute to Metroid is a bit more like unique than this one is to Castlevania.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I think I'm going to put it below Rebel Transmute. I don't know. This list is weird and random.
How dare you?
Yeah, I'm putting it at the new number 19.
Okay.
Which bumps down the Night Witch.
Every new game bumps the Night Witch down, and you revel in putting it in its place.
Hey, you don't want to know what's below the Night Witch.
Yeah, I also see Metroid Prime underneath the Night Witch, which is my number 2, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Oh my god. Of note, day of recording, Metroid Prime 4 got some signs of life.
Yeah, it's maybe still really happening.
Perhaps. Maybe it'll show up on the new Switch Next model, but that's just a fun little bit of trivia for when we're recording.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking of games that reached their popularity on the GameCube, there was another time-based game, which we mentioned earlier, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. You might have heard of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it particularly counts as a Metroidvania, but this year did see the release of what I think is just inarguably a Metroidvania, which is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
You know, I didn't even think about the time connection when we proposed doing this.
We should really start looking into having some threading, some theming even, instead of just randomly just deciding like, maybe this is a fun bit or whatever. But yeah, no, I played this game earlier this year in between everything else we're doing. Would love to see it revisited and finally give Tom a chance to actually see, I think, spoiler alert, what I consider a good game, and has only been updated to probably be smoother to play. So yeah, next month, look forward to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Yeah, we went back in time and got a head start on that.
Indeed. And if you have the time, if you could, please leave a review or a comment on any of your podcast platforms of choice or on YouTube at Inverted Castle Podcast. Our email is invertedcastlepodcast@gmail.com, and we are, of course, on Twitter/X at InvertedCastleP. Never forget the P. Certainly anywhere else on the internet, it's the Inverted Castle. You know it, you tolerate it, and hopefully you've been tolerating us, in particular me, Eric Fox.
And I've been Thomas Flight.
And remember, kids, if you're lost, you can look, and you will find me, time after time.
Oh, I had another dumb idea.
Go for it.
Hey, who's this other guy you're doing a podcast with?
Oh no, what?
It's the time-killed other version of me.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Oh no, I've been time cheating on you.
Yeah.
I think that's a little too high concept.
Too high concept? Okay, I don't know. We can cut it.